Hello everyone, I'm Blazer for Hire, and welcome to a tutorial on how to build spiral staircases. I decided to make this tutorial as there was a person in the Craftworks Discord that was asking a question about how to make spiral staircases, and particularly one with a square pillar in the center. So right behind me I have a 1 block pillar that's 10 blocks tall, a 10 block tall 5x5 pillar, and a sort of irregular shaped pillar. I've scaled these down to something that should get the concept across. I'm going to show you sort of how to think about, or the way that I think about doing spiral staircases. Smaller ones are definitely easier because there's less to sort of mess with, but I'm going to do some larger spiral staircases to kind of show you the sort of general rules of thumb. That way you can build these yourself when, you run into a different shape and you're like, well, I don't really know how to do this. This doesn't fit this, very structured way of thinking. So I'm hoping this gives you sort of the toolbox to think about spiral staircases in a way that when you have irregular shapes or a different shape, you can figure it out. And I think you'll find it a little easier, maybe, that for, more varied projects. But let's get started. I want to create a staircase that is 5 blocks out from the center pillar. What a spiral staircase really is you have a circle from the top view, if you go from a bird's eye view, and it extends out like a spring or a screw. So what we're actually going to start with is a circle. Now, there are helpful tools to make a circle. I highly, highly recommend Plots. It's Plotz. It allows you to do circles, spheres, ellipsoids. It is a very torus. It's a very helpful tool. I highly recommend. And the more you do it, the more you kind of can guesstimate things. I'm not perfect at that, but it is incredibly helpful. However, I'm going to use world edit, and I'm going to do / hollow cylinder. The pattern, which is the block type, is going to be an oak slab. The radius is actually going to be 5 because world edit counts out from the center block that you are standing on in each direction. So if I put 5, it is technically going to be 11 across because it counts the block in the middle, or I guess doesn't count the block in the middle, and goes 5 blocks out in front, behind, left, and right of you. Anyway, and the height, we're simply going to do 1. I guess we'll just raise the pillar. I don't want to redo this. So, we have the circle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a pillar. These are temporary pillars. Actually, to really make it clear that these are temporary, I'm going to use crimson wood. Technically that circle's temporary also, but I'm doing this just for clarity. You don't have to do this, or you don't have to use crimson wood specifically, but I do recommend a different color just for ease. This is much more helpful when you are doing things at a much larger scale, especially when you're doing things that are irregularly shaped, like when I get to that pillar over there. There's two ways we can do this. We can come up with our start point and our end point, or one or the other. If you have a specific like start point that you really want to end at or start at, I recommend putting those in first, because that will make it easier figuring out how steep the incline should be. So I normally go for slabs, but you know, you might want a really slow incline, but later we will get to the point where, you know, we might do something like this and slow down the incline, or we might have to use stairs to kind of slow down the incline. We'll have to increase or decrease the incline depending on what our start and end points are. Don't worry, I will be going over this like 3 times and summarize it, so don't have to worry. I'm going to say I want to end here. And I want to start here. And we'll see how that goes. Now, I'm imagining we are going up the staircase in a clockwise direction, and I should start there, and it should end here, and this over here should be the floor. So this would be solid. Okay, we have the platform. We have our start and end point. I want to go half a slab down, but I want to be in line with this outer perimeter, and this will give us an idea of where our perimeter is. And we can adjust height later. So from this angle, when we destroy those pillars, it should look round. It shouldn't look like square on the edges. It should feel like it's going around and around instead of like a flat angle and they're kind of squares. This is very much a method, which I guess is sort of the method that I tend to go for anyway, but a lot of the methods that I go for are sort of like when you're sketching out, I want to kind of set my boundaries to make it look right first before I start filling everything in. I can always change texture later, I can always change the blocks later. I really, really want to get the shape right first. And so setting up these, you know, circles and squares, and that's just for getting the shape right first. Look, and now you can see kind of from here, it looks like a circle. But we don't need it as steep. We want it to sort of end here without it just like hitting the ground over here. So you pretty much want the corners to decrease slab by slab. However, the really good place to slow down that incline are actually these flat edges. They're also far less finicky to work with. It gives you more space to kind of combine the corners versus the edges, which we'll get to later on. And yes, I know, this is not a quick thing, but neither is building, at least when I do it. Edges, we'll do something like this. I think maybe going for 2, no. I want to do this. Since we're 5 across, I try to do a sort of consistent pattern. You don't have to do it this way. This might not even be the efficient way to do it, because we may get to the end and realize, that doesn't quite work the way that we wanted it to. But this is all kind of the testing phase. Spiral staircases, in my opinion, are absolutely spiral staircases, when they are of large scale, are sort of a special use thing for me, at least, because they are quite time consuming. So it isn't something that I, at least in the future, will take lightly. As experienced by a build that I decided to do. It was not... I did not do it quickly, to say the least. Okay, so here we go. That worked really nicely. I used 2 slabs here, 1 step down, and 2 slabs. And then the corners, I just half a slab down. This gave us the exact staircase that we wanted. There's frequently more trial and error. And I know that might be frustrating to hear because, well, that's building and it's not, it's not this clean cut thing that you're like, yes, that's exactly what I do. It's exactly going to turn out the way I want it to. Spiral staircases, in my opinion, when they get when staircases start to be of large scale, they're not something that you take lightly. They're something that is a very nice touch, but you were like, okay, this is going to take me a while. This is a long step. However, it's going to look cool. So I don't take this lightly. Now, if you're replicating this multiple times, you take a while to work it out the first time, and then you can just rebuild it multiple times, and it gets easier. A lot of these things, they get easier with practice, and you don't have to it's not as finicky, or it might feel less finicky, because you kind of have a general rule of thumb in your brain that's like, this is generally what I do. It seems to work out the best when I do it this way. And you might look at this way and think, you know what, it doesn't do exactly what it would look nicer if I placed this block there or this block there. That's totally fine. We all have our own ways of doing things. It's okay that somebody else does it differently than me, or they look at this and they're like, I'm not a fan of that. It's okay. So, anyway, enough of that tangent. I'm gonna kind of do this as a, just kind of lining things out. Again, don't have to do it this way because you might just not like it, or you feel it's unnecessary to do it this way. Again, I think of this like drawing. I'm sketching everything out. I'm getting the absolute roughest of details in, and I will fix the rest later. Okay. Oh, I just realized that this slab is not... This didn't quite go the way I intended. However, I do still think it'll turn out quite nice, even though it's not exactly how I wanted it to go. Okay, so now that we have like these little flat bits, this corner and that corner of each section are gonna kind of be cut off, because we're gonna try to use this slab and this slab to join these two. So diagonals are your friend, and they don't have to be like super neat diagonals. They don't need to be like, they don't have to look like this. You'll probably get a lot of spaces that don't look that neat. Let's say I do you know, this, and you'll be like, oh, there's a gap here. Well, we can knock those two slabs out, and we can do that. Not the flattest of staircases, maybe not what we're going for, and we can always change that if we don't like it. I will be here messing with this for probably some time. Okay, I'm gonna tell you something very frank. I only just figured out how to fix one of the issues that I've been dealing with this type of staircase. So because of how small this staircase is, I don't have a lot of wiggle room to kind of finagle things and not have this kind of like block issue here where I almost I have to have a full block. I personally don't like doing that, but to get this to work, having a full block on the innermost edge is sort of like the most feasible option. However, because it's a full block, what instead I can do is I'll knock this slab out from over here. The areas that take a full block, I can put a stair. And if there's a gap here, I can simply put a slab there. That way it's, you know, this is technically a bottom slab, but it goes into a stair and there's a slab there. So it's almost like a full block. And this is almost like a quarter block. Anyway, not the point. Point is, if you find yourself with areas, you'll probably most likely run into them like right at the pillar in the corner. You can knock those out and then put a stair there. And if there's a gap here, you can put a slab there. That way it's all, you know, uniform and neat. Except for when this happens and I can't place things. Ah boy. There we go. See, I'm trying to teach you all how to build a staircase, and I just taught myself how to better build this staircase. Learning! You're always doing it. Gotta get used to it. Okay. There we go. What's this? Put that there for now. So now we have these stairs, which, you know, maybe aren't my favorite, but this does help with making this go a bit smoother. So let's see, that's all good. So the staircases are all good over here, it looks like. Now, I don't know if I've gotten a good kind of shot of what I've been doing, but basically I'm doing, this is the edge slab of the corner, which we can think of these two slabs as the corner slabs because all these slabs are the edge ones of the circle. This area I've been doing 1 and then 2 catty corner, and then this is technically 1, but this is actually the stair because it was a full block to make it fit correctly. This I did, you know, a triangle piece and then 1 piece. Diagonals. I just need to reiterate, diagonals. Use diagonals to your advantage because that is going to help you a lot in getting these shapes that we want. And it may not be a straight line like this. it may end up being like 1 block here, 2 blocks here, 1 block there. The more you experiment, it does get easier. But I'm also not gonna say that it's like easy necessarily, because spiral staircases, they're not easy, at least in my opinion. But as you can see, we now have a spiral staircase, and in my opinion, although it is not the most like flat and clean and like straight lines, it accomplishes the goal of you can go up. You shouldn't really get caught on the stairs because there shouldn't be any full blocks now. And from the top angle, it's round. From the side angle, it curves instead of kind of cutting off like squares. I think, okay, what I can show you, what I mean is it doesn't, like this area. Let's see if I can do this. Where that line is, you can see on the inside, there's nothing on the inside. If it looked jagged, like this would look like a corner, this would look like like this would jut out all the way over here and in line with that, but that's not the case. We have like gradual edges that make it look round. That's what I was trying to point out. It's like pixel art. Your eye is tracing like the outer portion, but it may not be like the outermost corner. Your eye may not be filling in that gap. It may be more a little bit like the... Instead of your eye tracing from this corner pixel to that corner pixel to that corner pixel to that corner pixel, it may actually be more like this corner pixel to this one to this one to that one. And I say sort of because the more you work with blocks, the more you'll kind of see it, where your eye just fills in different blobs, and using stairs and slabs to kind of make it easier for your eye to trace it makes it look nicer. Anyway, we are now going to make another staircase. It is also going to be 5 out in every direction. However, we have a 5 wide pillar. So, counting this block where I'm standing on, which I'll actually knock a block down because that one I was too high up. I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks. So, standing here, slash slash, hollow cylinder. We're going to do spruce slabs. And we are going to do a radius of 7, because it goes 7 blocks out from the block that I'm standing on, and a height of 1. Okay. Now that we have that, we're going to do the same exact thing that I did before. We are going to put pillars down to give me a guide, just to keep me on track. These will be especially helpful when we are using irregular shapes. I may end up changing these edges because we actually have more edges. We have 3 sets of edges. So I'm gonna follow the same rule of 2, 1, and 2. And then these edges, I'm gonna slow down the slope on this one and see where it lands. Okay, as you can see, I've actually decreased the incline, and you can see that I went all the way around, and I still didn't make it to over here. So what I can do is slow down, decrease. I can decrease the incline even more. I may even just do this, so all of the flat pieces are, all of the outermost edges are just one flat spot. Though that may end up being a mistake on my part, but we will see. The thing to keep in mind is that when you, like this, I decreased the incline here, so this is like basically a flat spot, that's a flat spot. The distance that I am going for each of these, like whether it's I'm going down like 2 half slabs because I'm using 3 levels of half slabs, that's going to accumulate. So if it's 2 over here, then I'm increasing it by 2 over here, and then increasing it 2 over here. So keep that in mind when you're doing like large staircases and you're like, oh, I have all this extra space. You may not have to decrease the incline that much because the distance is really going to collect. Why do I do this? This isn't going to be helpful. This is just going to be confusing. It's going to be confusing. I'm the person that I don't watch. Because I'm just like, that's too complicated for me. Like, it might be helpful for some people, but for me, my brain can't do it. So I guess the weird thing is that my brain can do the thing, but I don't know if other people are going to find this as helpful. And then over here, I'll just, even though it, you know, breaks the pattern of what I was doing up there, this will increase the incline enough that it'll just meet where I want it to. Because what? That's 2 half slabs, which means I probably didn't have to flatten it out all the way. I could have done something like I could have probably done something like 2 blocks here and then 3 blocks here, and it would have been even. Like it would have landed the place that we needed it to. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna fill in these corners over here. We will probably end up adding stairs in because that was actually very helpful, and I haven't used stairs, and I probably should have been using stairs this whole time. Though this might actually be easier because there's less incline. And the pillar is wider, so it is in fact less finicky when you have a larger pillar. I will say that. So we have these solid areas. You can see because the pillar is so much larger, these don't overlap nearly as much as before. And we can do something like this, where we do this edge. And this, we can simply knock these 2 blocks out, and we have that. And this, we can just do this. And this is, like, can confirm this is, like, 10 times easier than the other staircase. Because of all the extra space that we have, you could also do something like, I don't know, maybe you're just not a fan of like how much space is here and you want to kind of even it out a little more. Just kind of like extend this a few blocks like that. then you can extend it here. And, you know, it looks a little smoother progression. And it doesn't feel like there's just this big slab over here. Again, personal preference, but as you can see, it has like these circular edges. It doesn't kind of cut off in straight lines. The steepness is different than this one, and it's not just because that one's one block taller. It is quite literally just a different steepness. Even though it begins and ends in the same place, the width of the pillar matters. Anyway, the next part, this is probably going to be people's least favorite one to work on. However, the effect is just really cool because there's just some extra steps that make it a little more difficult, but well worth it as long as you're not doing like 1,000 of them. So, I'm gonna line out what I want the outermost edge to be. I generally want it to be at least 4. Yes, I know I'm doing less. You can do more if you want. I want to generally be 4 out from the center. And where the center is depends on really where you want it. So I recommend getting kind of a top view. And, you know, the center isn't really here, it's more like here-ish because of the edge. You might have an area that doesn't really have a really good center. Just try to make a circle that mostly covers the majority of the edges. The areas that maybe overlap and kind of like cut off the staircase, that's the part that we're going to kind of mess around with. But I will set, how many blocks is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 7, 4, 5, 6, 7. Gonna be 7 out. So again, we will do / hollow cylinder. I think we'll do birch this time. Birch slab. We do 7 in diameter, 1 in height. Okay, we're in the right spot. Okay. Again, if you don't like the spot that it's in, like I'm not a fan of the spot that it's in, I think it would actually be better here. I'm gonna / undo / hollow cylinder. Birch slab 7 1. And I did it wrong because I spelled birch wrong. Hollow cylinder. Birch slab 7 1 go. And I like that better, even though you can see this juts out. Now, we don't have something that is as extreme as what I've done before. However, this is enough difference to really get you an idea of how to modify the staircase to look the way, at least, I kind of like. Okay, same rule of thumb I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna start, this is going to be my center. This is my goal endpoint. I know I'm choosing the same endpoint, but that's just for simplicity's sake. Then I am going to slab down once. Oops. then slab down there, there, here, and I will continue with this all the way around. So I will get back to you once I have done that. Okay, so I made it to the bottom, however, I didn't end up in the place that I wanted to, so I know that I need to go quite a few blocks before I make it to this spot here. And as you can see, the staircase is actually going to be really small down here because of just, you know, the irregularity of the pillar. We'll get to that. However, I want to make sure that I'm lined up first. So I'm going to reduce it by 1 block. Yeah, I'm going to reduce the distance by 1 block because if I reduce it from 1 here, that's 1 here, 1 there, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slabs. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. So that should... Oh no, wait, I actually want those slabs there. I need those slabs there. That way I know how far I'm going. So yes, we'll reduce it by 1 each. So it'll probably be like a 2 and 3. So this will be 2, and then that would be 3. This hopefully will also give me more space to work with when trying to kind of fix the sides. You'll eventually notice that once it's finished, these sides won't be like dead in line with each other. However, that's because I'm prioritizing the amount, the distance between the irregular stone pillar. That way you have enough walking space. But I will get on that and fix things. So I'll be right back. Again. Okay, so you might notice that this side and this side are not 2 and 3. I got all the way to the bottom. It didn't quite match up quite right. I would have needed to go like this to kind of keep consistent with the pattern. This is kind of the thing with these pillars, is if I have a fixed start and end point, inevitably I sort of have to vary things. If you really want, you can, because this is more steep and that's more steep, you could always like distance them a little more. So putting that one maybe up here somewhere, because there's only 2 of them, you could probably put it closer to the top, maybe like here. Though you would kind of notice the difference from the side. So if you want it to look super consistent, it may be good to put it somewhere where it would be less noticeable. If seeing that would bug you. However, now we'll be getting to the filling in part. We're going to do the same thing we did with the other 2 pillars, where we're going to take the most flat sides, bring it all the way to the edge, and if we feel like that we don't enjoy like how far it is, like over here we're like pretty far away from the pillar, but there's some areas where we're kind of close, and I mean, I kind of like it. I kind of like that it varies a little bit. Though I think there is a spot somewhere that it feels a little precarious. I mean, this area is a little skinny, but... or this area. But even though I think it looks fine, I am going to show you how to fix that after putting in these cardinal direction bits. That way you have an idea of what I'm talking about. about, you know, making these edges like jut out more and they don't look, they're not all in a straight line, because there are going to be cases where you have, you know, a more irregularly shaped pillar where it just like totally cuts off, and I want to give you the tools to conquer those troubles when they appear. So I'll be right back when I finish this piece. Okay, so I've gotten all the cardinal directions done. Now, the corners. I'll start it with over here because I do think starting with this edge here and these edges, it gives me an idea of like what space I'm going to take up and how I want to modify things. I think I'm going to kind of do the same thing I did before and do this kind of like 2x2 end and this curve end. I feel like, oh, I just realized these are on the same level, so I can just fill that in. And yeah, and if you feel like there's too many like straight lines and stuff and you want it to be a little more inconsistent looking, you can always modify it. This is just, you know, plotting things out so they feel a little, so it feels a little less finagly. Give you some structure. And I will continue this because it does seem that I will be probably just replicating this. And I will hop back in when I see something that needs to be mentioned. Something that'll, you know, you'll look at and be like, how do I fix this? Okay, I've run into something that I think would be helpful to see. You'll notice here that it looks a little bit sort of awkward over here because this flat portion doesn't meet up with this. This is one of the things that it's just easier to kind of just like cut off like that. Just have the more diagonal bits run across, because this allows you to it allows you to kind of smooth things out. And basically I use the corners instead of the sides. I kind of prioritize them because those are the areas that really like fill in. And soon I will get to, soon I'll get to extending the edges, which also means extending the sides. So yeah, prioritizing kind of these edges here in the cases that you need to fill something in. There's usually plenty of like this platform here to kind of make it look nice. It's usually the corners that you want to fill in more because they might look a little funky. Okay, so we have our staircase. It looks round, it spirals down, looks nice. However, we're gonna extend this. One of the things that we started with was we wanted it to be 4 out from the furthest edge, which is here. It's actually 3 out over here. And, well, it's more because that thing. So it lines up but we want it a little bit longer. So we'll extend this here. And the thing we're looking to do is, well, it's kind of hard to see from that side because it's on this side. We still want it to look round. You could just do that. It's not super noticeable. But I try to extend all the corners and not this edge. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe we go there. We still want it to look like a circle, and so I guess this is the time to kind of mention how circles kind of are in Minecraft. So a really small circle will look like, this is the wrong block for this. A really small circle will look kind of like this. That's kind of the closest you can get to a circle at that size, sort of. If I extend this to, I'll start with 3 and then 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. The way that I find easiest to remember circles is to actually remember 1/4. So 1/4 of the circle, using this as the center, looks like this. Counting this block and replicating it, I can go 1 there, 1 there, 2 there. And I could do the same thing. Counting this one, 1 there, 1 there, 2 there, and do the same thing again. 1 there, 1 there, 1 there. And I have a circle. And this is possible scaling up. I find that the easiest way for me to remember and how to do a circle. What you'll notice is you always have edges and corners. You have the edges, which are the most flat part of the circle. And as you go out, you'll say, what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to do 7 because it is consistent with all the other things we learned. And then since it's 7, maybe we go 3. And then we go 2. And then we go 1. We go 1 again. Not including this one, we've basically made, well, I was going to say an ace, but we haven't. But we've made one section of the circle that we can then replicate. So we can go 1, 2, 3, and 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and do that again. I will continue to do this once I hit the this edge bit. Rotate. 1, 2, 3, 1. Nope. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. And now when I step back, it's close to a circle. This is close enough. It's not perfect. I think I chose maybe too large of a centerpiece. Like maybe this. Yes, that's it. I just started with too large of a center bit, but now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, and we have 4 across here. It usually is this sort of top piece or edge, whatever you want to call it, is the biggest piece. Sort of. It's not always. Sometimes you kind of need a bit like this to make it look like a circle, but usually the top is like kind of the largest piece when you're doing a circle. When you're doing a sphere, that's a whole nother thing. I am not good at making spheres like from mentally. Again, plots is a lifesaver. Usually this is the biggest piece, this is the second biggest piece, third biggest piece, fourth biggest piece, and as circles get larger, you'll kind of see a progression of like, it'll just be biggest piece to smallest piece, and then reverses. However, there are cases where you might run into, I don't know, this will be 2, that'll be 1, this will be 2, this will be a line of 4, and that'll be more circular. And that will kind of produce it'll be a piece of what makes a better curve, but usually that's very much larger scale, and at least at this point you probably may not need to do that. However, the point of that long tangent was we're kind of doing the same thing, where I'm trying to take like this edge and I'm trying to maybe lengthen the edge to kind of like combine 2 circle shapes and still make it round. Again, my method is probably not the easiest. It might not be the most beginner friendly, I'm realizing, but I find it useful for when you just have irregular shapes and you're like, how in the world do I do this? I can't do this. And, you know, maybe it prevents one person from having a mental breakdown when they decide that they're going to do a spiral staircase on an irregular shape. You know, if I'm not the cause of the mental breakdown. Anyway, thank you for watching this tutorial and making it to the end of the video. It's probably a long one. And although it is probably not the most beginner-friendly tutorial, I'm hoping that this kind of method will give you an idea of maybe opening up the possibilities of making spiral staircases and making it take less time kind of in the long run, because trying to just wing it is very time consuming. Sometimes winging it is just not the way to do it, and this kind of gives you like, this is where I want it to start, this is where I want it to end, this is how far I want to go away from the pillar, and this gives you that framework to frame it out ahead of time, kind of fill it in a little bit, and then fill it in some more and refine it a bit. I hope you liked the video. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching till the end of the video. I'm Blazer for Hire, and I hope to see you next time. See ya. Bye.